Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. And first of all, I'm sorry that it didn't turn out that we actually had any episode of Inappropriate Characters on Sunday. The problem, not really the fault, but the problem was mine in that my internet chose to die on the weekend, so I wasn't able to get it going again by the time the show was supposed to happen. But we will do another show at some point soon, and on that one or some future one, we will have the basic expert on the show. It's very unfortunate we'd invited him on to back us up. I actually told Job and the basic expert that they should just go ahead and do it with the two of them, and I'd, follow along on my phone in the chat, but they decided that without the pundit, it wouldn't really have a point. Note that all three of us were going to go on ahead and do it without Venger, who had bowed out earlier. Anyway, in other news, my new Sword and Caravan book is now out, and it is just incredibly fast how successful it's become. It spent the entire week as #1 in the OSR category on Drivethru, in the top 10 of the general category. And it's already a silver bestseller, so that was really fast. It was like in 4 days, I think it hit silver. So it's doing astoundingly well, and you really don't want to miss it. It's an absolutely gorgeous book. It's about 200 pages, and it's all color, and it's getting nothing but rave reviews. So be sure to take a look at it, or any of my other products. My other recent product, the Old School Companion 2, 25 adventures, all based on medieval authentic sources, should be really interesting for almost anyone, because you're going to find something you like there. Anyways, on to the topic of the day, which is the Guardians OSR Superhero game, which is published by Night Owl Workshop. I've reviewed a couple of their other things so far, or at least one of their other things. There's more to come. But this is a tough call because, obviously you guys know I'm a big supporter of the OSR, and I believe in the ability of the OSR to effectively emulate all kinds of stuff that goes way beyond regular D&D. But on the other hand, I'm a huge critic of almost all superhero RPGs. I think most of them do it really, really badly, because they aren't able to effectively emulate the mainstream superhero comics, Marvel and DC. You have to kind of either cheat or just kind of hand-wave stuff, or you end up with a game that's basically a big fighting game that doesn't really feel the way fights do in the comics, and the power differentials between superheroes are too great. So it's a very tough act. There's only really one superhero RPG that I ever liked, which was Icons, and everything else has in some way or another fallen short. Can an RPG based on Dungeons and Dragons really do the job? Well, here we go. First of all, it's a softcover book. You can see it's the smaller size, same size as same dimensions as my RPG Pundit Presents compilation books like Old School Companion 2, and World of the Last Sun. It's 98 pages long, counting the copyright stuff at the back. It's made by David Pulver and Thomas Denmark. Original edition rules for fantasy superhero games. So this product, it is D&D based, as you can see by the very first table that you have with ability score modifiers. You can theoretically have a character with a 68 strength, which gives him an extra 22 dice of damage, so it's that's pretty wild, so, there's, this is where we really strain to test out the potential of D&D. And I'm going to give you guys my very basic opinion of it right now, which is that it's a very interesting game. It reminds me in some ways of the classic superhero Villains and Vigilantes RPG, which had all of those flaws that I've talked about that we see in this sort of RPG designed for superhero games. But it was still a fun game, and this has all the looks of being a fun game, but not really of being a game that will really effectively let you emulate, say, the Justice League or the Avengers or even the X-Men. So you have your basic stats just like usual. You then you have to select an origin for your character. So you can have like human characters, which are just normal humans that have a lot of training, i.e., Batman or Nightwing or something like that. And they get an extra 6 points to spread around their ability scores, but no ability can go over 18. Then you have like exotic creatures, mutants, robots, cyborgs, superpowered aliens, supernatural, or superhuman. And each of these categories gives certain options and limitations. So there are certain elements here that have to be explained that you will see later on. So gifts are like special features. They're not superpowers. They're things that, like resources, I guess you could say, that the characters have. Powers are the actual superpowers. Limits are certain limitations to those superpowers, and issues are, you could say, flaws, right? And then some of them have special details, like humans I mentioned, and then mutants. The first issue is always bad press, so that's the X-Men nod there. Cyborgs have robot body trait. Robots have computer mind and robot body. Supernatural could potentially be outsiders or undead. Then you pick a character class, and the character classes are Bruiser, Super Agent, Power Wielder, and Gadgeteer. And each of them have XP progression levels, a hit dice, which you'll see that obviously they pump up the hit dice, because that's fine, because that should be, superhero. ST had me surprised for a bit, but then I realized it was, normally I think this is abbreviated SV, which is to say saving throw, but there we are. And then you have new powers or gifts, right, which is a bit of an issue to me, because that's one of the things that, you get that is part of why it's sometimes very difficult to emulate superhero games. In superhero comics, sometimes superheroes change their powers or lose their powers, or sometimes they gain bigger powers. But as a rule, superheroes tend to stay the same, and when they do change, it's because of like plot reasons. It's not necessarily because, you don't typically assign it to something like, that you've become more powerful because you've been adventuring for a while, right? So that mechanic just feels a little bit tricky to me. You don't tend to have superheroes just randomly getting new superpowers, right? Just because time has gone by and now suddenly they have, I don't know, telepathy as well as heat vision. That's not the normal way it goes. And then EP are energy points, which are used as a mechanic for certain types of powers, namely powers that require some kind of effort to maintain. The classes are pretty much what you'd expect. The Bruiser's the fighting guy. Super agents are the ones that have like special training. You can use it to make the swordsman or vigilante or Green Arrow or Hawkeye or whatever. Power wielders are focused on, using their intense powers, whatever they may be. Gadgeteers are able to create gadgets, and the gadgets kind of work in the sense that they imitate superpowers in different ways, and they get more gadgets over time. So that does make a bit more sense. Getting to the gifts, you can see, well, all three of them, the gifts, the powers, limitations, and all four of them, and the issues, they all work on random tables, which is good, because there shouldn't be that. One of the problems that you often see in superhero games is that they try to be point buy games, and that really doesn't end up working to me, because then you end up like, first of all, I don't like point buy, but also you end up like generating characters that are in some ways they feel too ersatz, maybe. Of course, with random tables, you do have the potential risk that you'll create characters that don't make any sense, which is one of the things that happen in Villains and Vigilantes a lot. Like, you have these really weird mixes of powers that weren't really thematic, right? So it could have been a good thing to have had linked powers, which is, for example, what Icons does. So that if you have a certain power, or what I do with the telepathy powers in Star Adventurer, right, where the psionic powers, rather, where if you have a certain type of psionic power, then the next time you get a power, instead of rolling at random, you can roll at random, but you can choose to substitute it for another power that is linked to one you already have. Anyway, so you see, gifts are things like knowledge or resources. You have a sidekick or a pet or police powers, or your vehicle trained or stuff like that. Powers are the actual powers, right, that do work on themes, right? So if you only have certain powers, you can select a particular set of them, right? So maybe electrical, so you got a variety of electrical powers, or sonic, hypnotic voice sound control, sonic aura, etc. Powers come in different types. There's permanent ones that are just always there. Sustained ones are activated or deactivated when you use them, and they require energy points. Sustained means that they can stay. They require energy points each round to have. Concentration requires that the character be concentrating to use them. Extended effect are touch attacks that require at least 4 hours of focused effort, concentrating on an adjacent, restrained, cooperative, or paralyzed subject. Action powers replace the user's attack for that round. Ranged attacks, area attacks, psychic attacks, and ability score powers that are basically just, they increase your ability scores. And then you have some superior or ultimate powers, which is that you can take the same power multiple times to have increased power levels. So there are certain powers that can end up doing that, Power descriptions. These are, there's a very good variety of powers here. All the standard stuff for superheroes. And so this is fine, but what it doesn't reflect, at least to me, it always fails. Almost all of the games that are superhero games fail what I call, what did I used to call it? I called it something like the Batman/Superman/Red Bee test, right? So Batman and the Red Bee are both superheroes that have no superpowers. They're just humans, right? But if they have to face a Superman gone mad, that Batman is going to somehow be able to put up a really amazing fight against Superman. He might lose. He might beat him because he's so clever and so careful and so, talented in specific ways. But it's going to be close. Whereas the Red Bee was also, super trained. I could have substituted for any other number of non-powered superheroes, right? Take your pick. But the Red Bee, is going to end up having his spine snapped in two by Superman, right? There's just no chance. And so the reflection there is that it's not the training, it's not the stats. The problem is in an RPG, you're going to try to put that down into stats, right? That Batman has his stats. So the way that people solve it in RPG design, if you're trying to emulate Batman versus Superman, is that Batman is either pumped up in ways that make him essentially supernatural anyways, like he's just so incredible in certain things that it defies humanity, and that therefore, he's not really actually following the model of what is Batman. Or that, there's no chance at all. Batman looks super cool, but Superman will wipe the floor with him no matter what. And the reason is that the difference between the Batman and the Red Bee, and the reason that Batman is actually a lot closer in terms of superheroism rather than actual power level to Superman than to the Red Bee, is that Batman has as much protagonism as Superman. So there needs to be a mechanic that can reflect the protagonism level of a character in such a way that doesn't that at the same time doesn't turn that into a power. It turns it into some kind of an element, which is, it's really hard to do that and not turn the whole thing into a goddamn story game, right? So it's very, very difficult. And, you're not gonna find that here. Here, if you end up having a character that's a Superman type character, then he's gonna wipe the floor with Batman, Limits are limitations to powers. So, for example, certain things can eliminate a power, or you have a dependency on something, or it's a focused power, or vulnerable, etc., etc. And issues are, your standard superhero drama that, like bad press if you're a mutant, right? Automatically, everybody hates you. Enemy means you have like a sworn enemy. If you're a kid, it means that you're a, young superhero that nobody takes seriously. You might have a phobia, you might be hideously disfigured, and well, that sort of thing. Then we get, standard stuff for modern OSR stuff, weapons and armor, area effects, other equipment. Well, it's getting tricky to turn the pages here. Sample character generation explanations. It's all very well written down. Like, this is all, you're going to have all the details that you really need in terms of the basic rules anyways, including stuff like, vehicle stuff and gadget stuff. Experience points are assigned for achieving goals or accumulating rewards or killing villains or monsters, which is, again, right away, something that doesn't quite work for this system. It was a problem that you had in Villains and Vigilantes too, is that basically, unless you're running a campaign of kind of dark superheroes that kill villains, then if you're doing that, then I guess you could do that, right? But in a standard superhero game, neither villains nor heroes or should die. If you're emulating the big superhero comics, for whatever reason, they shouldn't die, except in the most exceptional of circumstances. And that's also really tricky to mold with a standard RPG format, including D&D stuff. Combat charts, bonuses to hit, saving throw tables. You got a story here about a default superhero setting that you could use, the Guardians. A few little notes about, running episodic play and stuff like that, and short adventure. Some more stuff about campaign design, which again, the thing that would most work here would be, I guess, Dark Vigilantes. The fighter is an NPC class representing, characters that are like well-trained normals. So that's kind of good, actually, because what you don't want is the bruiser superhero to be the same as like a tough government agent, right? So a tough government agent is a fighter, right? Batman is a bruiser. That's clever. You get some sample characters with, as usual, really bad names, because most of the good names have been taken already. Some sample opponents, monsters and mooks. Some rules for making weird creatures and traps. And then, the appendix. I've noticed that Night Owl Workshop does some very good random tables for like flavor stuff. I saw that in their previous book that I reviewed. And in this one, you get the same thing. You get a lot of nice tables, very good ones, that can help you like run up and just randomly roll an adventure, basically, if you roll the tables in combination and work them out, like figure out how they all fit in, and you could have like an entire adventure outline laid out for you. So that's basically the game, Guardians. Now, if you want to make a campaign of something like whatever, the Justice League, the Teen Titans, Legion of Superheroes, the Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four, or whatever, and have it really feel like that in play, this isn't really going to do that, right? Now, if you want to have kind of wacky superhero adventures in the same style that you got from the classic Villains and Vigilantes RPG, then this will work quite well. It's not badly designed in terms of the mechanics or in terms of the writing. It just has the standard problem that you see with superhero RPGs of not really being able to emulate the genre effectively. but, you know, that's almost always been the case. So that's it for today. Please share this review anywhere you think people will be interested in it. I doubt anyone's going to be really offended by it. So, but, you know, if you think they might be, share it there too. And if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, check out my other videos, and share those videos anywhere you can. And if you want to support me beyond that, well, the best way to do it is definitely to buy my books. Check out Sword and Caravan. I don't have a physical copy yet, but I will, and then I'll do a flip through. Check out my last live stream, my 5,000 subscriber live stream, where I talk all about what's in Sword and Caravan and why it's so awesome. So, you know, check that out if you haven't bought it yet. Everybody's buying it, so you don't want to be left out. It's doing really, really well. And check out all my other products, including my RPG Pundit Presents series. There's 106 issues there, and you know they're all $4.99 and under. So you can, for a couple of bucks, get something that you'll be able to use in your RPGs. Because all my games are made, none of them are made to make a political message. None of them are made to look pretty on the shelf, although a lot of them do look pretty, you know. But they're made for being played, for being used. I try to make all my products be designed to be playable and useful for, you know, any OSR play, or even any kind of D&D or other TTRPG play within the limits of compatibility. So check them out. You're getting something for yourself, and you're you know, helping me out in my career. And that's the best way that you can support me. Besides sharing these videos, that really helps too. So that's everything for today. Currently smoking nothing because I'm currently cooking. I decided to film this video in between, you know, while I'm letting my broth boil. But that's it. We'll see you guys later.